Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Thanks again for tuning in for another video with me today. So for today's video, I actually decided to do a in-depth tutorial on how to apply your face products, meaning your foundation, your concealer, your powders, blushes, all that good stuff. I'll try not to make this video too long, but I do want to try to give you as much knowledge on what I know as much as possible. So if you're interested in seeing how
Mommy, come here.
If you want to see how I apply foundation and all of my face products, then stay tuned and watch the rest of this video. So the skin is prepped for foundation, and for today's video I chose to use the Infallible Pro Glow foundation by L'Oreal Paris, and this is what it looks like. Now for my oily girls out there, they do have a matte version of this, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. It's called the Infallible Total Coverage, and this is what it looks like. So if you were someone with oily skin or someone who just wanted more coverage, this would be what you could use for that. But I'm going to use the Pro Glow today. Now, as far as applying foundation, there is usually two methods you could use, and depending on what kind of coverage you want, depends on the way that you could apply your foundation. So you could either apply your foundation with a brush or with a sponge. And I'm sorry, my sponge is kind of dirty. Haven't cleaned them yet. Now, if you want the maximum coverage possible out of your foundation, then you're going to want to use a brush. Your brush will not soak, it'll get product on it, but it won't soak up as much product as your sponge will. You're going to get the most coverage with the brush. But if you want something that's going to be more natural, a little bit lighter, you want to use your sponge to apply your foundation. So for today, I think I'm going to apply my foundation with my brush. Lately, that's just the way that I've been wanting to apply my foundation. I used to use sponges or beauty blenders all the time, but for some reason I'm just really inclined to pick up a brush these days. What I like to do is I'll put a little bit of foundation on the back of my hand, and that's about how much that I put, and then I'll take my finger and I dot it all over my face. And the reason why I'm doing this is to prevent myself from applying too much foundation. You don't want to apply too much foundation, because once you get to add in all those extra layers of makeup, like your concealer and your powder and all that good stuff, it can start to become a little bit cakey, and that's the last thing that we need. And so next I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just going to blend this out all over my face. And I know it probably looks a little bit on the red side, but that is okay. We will be able to fix the color later on in the video. But right now we just want to blend out the foundation. Now when you're blending out a foundation with your brush, you don't want to drag it, because the purpose of this is to build coverage. If you drag it, you're just going to move product all over your face, and that's not what you want. So you kind of want to do like a stippling motion, if that makes sense. So just kind of push it into your skin and buff it, like buffing motions. But you don't want to drag like this. And so we're just going to continue to push the product into our skin. And this way, like, okay, I've pretty much blended out all the product on my face, and I can still see some areas where I do need a little bit more foundation, which, you know, not a problem. But that is the reason why I apply my foundation the way that I do with the dotting motions, because, you know, it's easy to go back and apply more foundations in areas where you need it, but it's harder to take it off once you put on too much. So that is completely okay. Now for my nose area, because I do have texture and we don't want to emphasize the texture on my nose or around my nose, I don't put foundation directly into those areas. Whatever's left over on my brush, I just use that and blend it over my nose, because once again we're going to be applying powder and concealer and all of that stuff, so you don't want a lot of product on your nose because it will be noticeable. It'll just look like a thick cakey layer of makeup on the face, and that is not what you want. So I'm going to go back in a little bit more with my foundation and just touch up in the areas that needed a little bit more coverage. And you always want to make sure that you do get to your neck so that you don't have a line of demarcation. Whoops. So that you don't have a line of demarcation. And that all that means is that you can tell where your makeup stopped on your face, and you don't want to do that. So you just want to bring it down on your neck with whatever's left over on the brush. You don't have to go pump out a whole pump of makeup and put it on your neck, because then it's going to get everywhere. So you just want to drag down the excess makeup. Get your life together, Talia. You are tripping. Alright, so foundation is on, okay? Next, we're going to be moving on to concealer. And so I'm going to use the Infallible Pro Glow Concealer by L'Oreal. And this is just what that looks like. Now, the purpose of concealer is to brighten and to help cover up spots or areas of your face that maybe your foundation didn't cover. So to brighten, you want to use something a little bit lighter than your foundation. You don't want to go too light, especially if you're just really getting into makeup. That might scare you a little bit. So maybe one shade lighter than your foundation. And then to spot conceal, say if you have acne scars or some blemishes on your face, you want to use a concealer that is the same shade as the foundation that you're wearing. So I'm only going to be highlighting today, and so my concealer is about 2 shades lighter than my foundation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit under my eyes. And with concealer, less is more. You may see, some people do the big triangles under their eyes. But the thing about that is, once you put that concealer on and you start to blend it out, it will spread. So you don't want concealer all over this portion of your face. Then it's just going to get harder to blend and to make it look cohesive all over the face. So you just want to put a little bit under the eyes. I'd say about that much. And then, I personally like to highlight down the bridge of my nose and a little bit on my chin and then a little bit on my cupid's bow. Now, because I get darkness around my nose, I do take a little bit of my concealer and go around my nose to counteract some of the darkness there. But for the most part, I try to use a small amount of concealer because, like I said, once you start to blend that out, it can get messy really quick. So next, I'm just going to apply a little bit on my forehead. And then once that's applied, you want to go ahead and blend that out. So I always use a sponge to blend out my concealer. I prefer one that has like a pointed tip because those are so much easier to get in the corners of your eyes. So usually you can take a damp beauty blender to do this. Depending on what sponge I'm using, sometimes I'll leave it dry. But for the most part, you're going to want to use a damp beauty blender. And then you want to take the tip of that sponge and put it directly in the corner of your eye. And then slowly start to blend that out. Now when you blend out your concealer, you should not want your concealer to pass the corner of your eye. So you want to try to stay in this area, because all you're wanting to do is to highlight. And so once your concealer is blended out, it should look a little something like this. It's not too heavy. It's not super light. Just something very natural and easy to do. So I'm going to do the same thing under my other eye. And we're just going to blend it out. And you want to make sure that you're being really gentle when you're blending out your concealer. Your under eye is a very sensitive area, especially because it is close to your eye. You don't want to poke yourself in the eye or beat the crap out of your under eye. You just want to slowly and gently pat your concealer and just blend it out. And it will blend out on its own. You just have to work really slow and be patient. And the more that you do this, you know, the easier it'll get and the quicker that you'll get with it. I'm just going to blend out my chin and my cupid's bow and then the bridge of my nose, and we'll just speed through that part. Alright, so once everything is blended out, it should look a little something like this. And you can already see the contrast between the outer portion of my face and the inner portion of my face. The inner portion of your face should look a little light, and then the outer portion of your face should be a little bit darker. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so to set my concealer, I'm going to be using the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. And I'm in the shade Medium Deep. Now, I personally, for a beginner, think it would be easier to use the sponge. And so I'm going to be using the sponge in the demonstration. So what you want to do is put a little bit of powder in your cap, like so. Then you want to take your sponge, push the sponge into the powder. Now, once you have the powder on to your sponge, you want to take the back of your hand and pounce off the excess powder onto the back of your hand so that you don't apply too much. And then once you've done that, you're going to take your sponge and put it under your eye and push slowly and firmly and put in your powder. And it's going to look a little bit scary at first, but no worries. And then the same thing for the other side. You're going to take that excess powder that's on the back of your hand, put it onto your sponge, and then go in and then set your under eye. And all you want to do is just push that in. And it should look really flat and seamless. Alright, and so you should look a little something like this. Now, I know right now it does look a little bit bright, and I know that can be kind of scary if you're new to makeup, but no worries. Once you finish your face, it'll tie it all in. So pretty much the same thing for the rest of the face. Damp off that excess powder onto the back of your hand, and then you want to do your chin and just push that in really firm. Cupid's bow. Get the excess powder off the back of your hand, and then do the bridge of the nose. And just push that in. I need a little bit more. And lastly, we want to do the forehead. Same thing. Stamp in the sponge. And then highlight or set the highlight on the center of your forehead. So once you set all the highlighted areas of your face, you should look a little something like this. Okay, so next we want to set the perimeter of our face where all the foundation is. So for that, the Revlon Color Stay Pressed Powder, and then this is in the shade Cappuccino. And I'm going to take my big powder brush. I'm just going to swirl it in and tap off the excess. And then stamp that on my face. Alright, so next we do want to, it's not really a contour, I'd say bronze. Well, I guess you could call it a contour. We do want to like chisel out the nose a little bit and also set that foundation that's on the nose. So we're going to take that same powder, and I'm just going to take a small eyeshadow brush and get the tiniest amount of product on there because you don't want it to be too harsh. And just go around the bridge of the nose and bring it up into the eye. Take a small amount, and then you want to tap off the excess and just go straight down the bridge of the nose. And you want to repeat the same step on the other side. Just want to go down the bridge of the nose, all the way down, and then bring it up into the eye. You can even use this for a little bit of an eyeshadow if you don't want a lot of color. You just want something quick, something simple with a natural look. But that's a video for another day. So right now we're just going to focus on the skin. So that is pretty much it. Next we are going to bronze. Now normally I do contour. I know in the past I said I don't contour. Well, guess what? I fell for it. Now I contour too. But since we want to keep this beginner friendly, I'm going to bronze. Now this bronzer, I don't know who it's by, but it's not anything expensive. It's called All Over Glow Bronzing Powder, and this is what it looks like. It reminds me kind of the MAC Skin Finishes. So I'm just going to take you can use a blush brush for this or contour brush, and you want to swirl your brush in the product, tap off the excess, and you want to smile, and you're going to apply the bronzer the same way you'd apply the blush. And this is kind of like a cheat code. If you don't know how to contour or you don't want to contour, this is still going to help you bring forward the high points and features on your face and give you a little bit of shadowing. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure you go up into your hairline because you want it to bring your features, pull your features up. If you bronze or contour straight back, it's not really going to do much for your face, but add a lot of darkness. You want to bring a little bit onto the forehead. And just keep applying until you're satisfied with the way that it looks. Now I am a little bit extra because I do like a full face of makeup. Just want to swirl that on really soft with nice soft strokes. You can take a little bit on your jawline. Just to give yourself that a very chiseled look. Okay, and then that is actually going to be pretty much it for bronzing. You know, we want to keep this really simple, very beginner friendly. So I don't want to go overboard with that. Now next is going to be blush. So for today's blush, I'm going to be using, this blush is by NYX in the shade Bang Bang. And it's like this deep purple berry looking color. And blush is pretty simple. You're just going to take your blush brush, or you can use the same brush that you applied your bronzer with and just wipe that off. Get a little bit of blush on it. Tap off the excess. You want to smile. So that is where your bronzer is. You just want to go a little bit above it and apply your blush. You always want to make sure you use a light hand, because if you always need more, you can add more, but if you add too much, it's hard to get it off, or it's hard to tone it down. Then lastly, only things left to do now is to highlight. And so for highlight, I'm going to be use the Wet n Wild highlighting powder in the shade Golden Flower Crown. And this is what that looks like. It's actually really, really pretty. So I'm just going to take my highlighting brush. Let's see, this highlighting brush actually came from Walmart. So you can find these brushes at Walmart too, very inexpensive. And you just want to pick up the product on the brush, tap off any excess, and you want to smile and hit the high points of your cheeks. Now, if you don't like highlight, you don't want to shine, you can totally skip this step. If you don't like blush, you can skip that step too. But I personally love a good highlight, so I'm gonna smudge this stuff all over my face. Now, what I've been doing lately with highlighter is I've actually been applying it to the apple of my cheek. I seen Jaclyn Hill do this in one of her videos, and I tried it and I like the way that it looks. It looks really good on people who have big cheeks or high cheeks. So I'm just doing the same thing on this side, applying it to the cheek, and then bringing it up on the high points of my cheek. All right, then next I'm gonna hit the tip of my nose, Cupid's bow, a little bit on my chin, and then just a smidge bit on the forehead. Fairly simple. Fairly simple, fairly quick. Now next I'm just gonna go back in one more time with a powder brush. I'm gonna take a clean powder brush and just go over my face. Nice and light. You don't want to blend too hard, and just make sure everything is blended together really nicely. And that is pretty much it. Now once you've reached this step, you do want to take a setting spray and set this to set your face. Now again, this goes back to the type of skin tone you have. So if you have oily skin, or you want more of a matte look, then you're going to want to go for a setting spray that says it's going to make your makeup matte. Or if you want the opposite, which is dewy, then you're going to want to go for something dewy. So today I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus 3-in-1 primer water, and I'm using the rose scented one. I wouldn't say this makes your skin dewy or matte. It's kind of a healthy in between, so I think anybody could use this. So I'm going to go ahead and shake that up. Spray my face. Alright, so this is what the skin is looking like. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, pretty quick, and not hard to do. So I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and finish the rest of my face. I'm going to apply a little bit of eyeshadow, mascara, finish my brows, and put on a lip product, and I'll be right back. Alright you guys, so this is the completed look. I just took my face powder and put a little bit of that in my crease. I put on a little bit of eyeliner, some mascara, and that was it. I took my NYX Ultra HD brow pencil and just filled in my brows a little bit. And then I just put on a brown lip liner from KKW Beauty. I put on Staunch and Anastasia Beverly Hills in the center of my lips. And then I put on Iconics London Lip Plumping Gloss in the shade Love Struck, I think. So I just tried to keep it really simple. A look like this you could probably do under, I'd say 10 minutes, maybe 5 if you did it enough and practiced it enough and got quicker at it. I tried to keep it very simple and very quick for you guys. So hopefully you were able to learn something, and hopefully this will help some of you guys who needed some assistance with putting on your face products. So yeah, if you do have any more questions, feel free to leave me a comment down below, or you can just hit me up on any of my other social media accounts. So that's pretty much it, and until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video.